What's going on, legends? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what keys you absolutely do not want to destroy in DMZ, especially if you haven't completed these missions that require them. There are 7 total missions that require specific keys, and if you don't have them, you will be kind of gate kept from going forward. This can be pretty frustrating, but most importantly, I thought this information would be useful because I didn't know this going in to the missions, and I didn't really have anybody ahead of me at the time to tell me what keys I might need. And some of these can be pretty hard to acquire, and it would be pretty terrible if you get to a point where you had a key that you needed in the future and you get to the future and you just don't have it. So this will overall help you guys prevent it and help you guys along the way, so that way you guys will be able to get the keys you need well before you actually need them. Just got to make sure, again, that you do not destroy them. Before we dive into it, if you guys do enjoy this content anytime or find this video helpful in any way, make sure you show your support for the channel by going down below and smashing that like button. Let's go ahead and throw an easy goal of 100 likes on today's video, as well as if you guys like to find your way back to the channel for more Call of Duty content, make sure you do hit that subscribe button alongside that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. So like I said, there are 7 total missions that actually require specific keys. Luckily, however, there are 2 of these locations that you can kind of bypass without a key, but in some circumstances, it might be nice to actually have them. So first up, we have a Legion Tier 3 mission known as Good Fortune. It's going to have you unlock room 302 on the top floor of the Sawah Hotel. This is obviously in Sawah Village. Great news is if it's not an actual stronghold, which sometimes it can be, you can actually just sneak up onto the roof and drop into this room without the key being required at all. And you just want to make sure that you unlock the door from the inside in order to complete the part that requires the actual key. Next mission, we have Mall Rat at Tier 3 White Lotus. It's asking you to kill 20 enemies without being downed inside the mall and also kill 3 operators. You can actually sneak in through the roof. However, with the key itself, it allows you to sneak into the front, and that could be a little bit easier for eliminating enemies without being downed. But overall, these first 2 do not require a key, and you can bypass it. But if you do have the key, in some circumstances, it might be helpful. Now, from this point on, all of these keys will actually be required. There's not going to be any really sneaking around it. Next on the list, we have White Lotus Tier 3 mission Unearthed. This one is going to require you to open the crane control room. So of course, you will need a crane control room key. You will not be able to get past this if you do not open the crane control room. So this is a must. Unfortunately, this is not one that you can just buy at a buy station or shop. So you will have to rely on looting it. But there is an alternative way to actually acquire one. The Black Moss Tier 3 mission, Quick and Dirty, does actually give you this as the reward for completing it. So if you're struggling to find the crane control room key, you can get one by completing that mission. Next, we have White Lotus Tier 5 mission, Clean House. This one's actually going to require 3 keys. Luckily, they're not the hardest to acquire. You're going to need the Kushaak warehouse key, the downtown post office key, and the US Embassy key. These are all 3 that I would imagine at this point you might have in your stash, but being that the stash is so limited, you might have deleted them at some point or destroyed them. So these are all 3 ones that you're going to want to hold on to, and I recommend maybe even getting a couple of them just in case you lose any on the way. Obviously, another option for this would be to loot, and you can even go as far as saving up 30k and hitting up the buy stations or shops and finding the individual one that has a specific key that you need and purchasing that, and then exfilling with it and keeping it in your stash for a future mission. But needless to say, for this specific mission, you will need all 3, so however you choose to acquire them is up to you. You can also grab the Kushaak warehouse key via 2 missions. One is going to be a Tier 1 White Lotus mission known as Convenience, and the second one is a Tier 3 White Lotus mission known as Unearthed. You will get these as a reward for completing either of those. Next, we have the Black Moss mission under Tier 2 known as Espionage. Some of you might be familiar with it at this point. It is basically asking you to go to the Sattiq Poppy Farmer's house to do a couple of things, but you need a Sattiq Poppy Farmer house key in order to do so. There's obviously a couple options for this one as well. You can choose to loot. I was able to actually loot one of these before ever getting to the mission, and I just so happened to keep it. But you also have an alternative method, which just requires you to complete the Tier 3 White Lotus mission known as Robin Hood, and you will receive it as a reward. That might be the easiest alternative. Something that I recommend for this key and even the crane control one is if you are working with a squad or you have a couple of friends and you all get these keys, make sure you take one at a time and do not have to push your limit. And if someone manages to exfil after completing it, make sure they hold onto their key so they can hopefully help out other teammates as well. Either way, this is not a key you're going to want to die with because it's going to be a lot harder to acquire again, and you're going to be pretty frustrated along the way. Next up, we have Black Moss Tier 4 mission known as Breaking and Entering. This one's going to require you to have the Bagra Underground key. Similar to our warehouse, embassy, post office keys, these are ones that you can obviously loot for, or even save up the 30k and hit the proper buy station or search for the proper shop, I should say, finding that key and purchasing it and then exfilling with it and holding on to it. But an additional option is to complete the Tier 5 mission for White Lotus known as Deadlines, and you will receive it as a reward for completing that. I think with some of these keys, it's going to be a lot easier to acquire or come across them. And obviously, in some cases, you can even buy them. So with those ones, I'm not as worried about, but it is nice to have them in your stash ready for whenever you hit the mission. And our last one is going to be a Black Moss Tier 5 mission known as Flight Plans. This one is going to require a pretty specific key that is extremely rare, and I haven't even actually seen it a single time throughout my entire playthrough. So hopefully I will run across it soon, because I would love to get this mission finished at some point. Essentially, you are going to need the Channel 7 Editorial Department Key, which is for the TV station in Al Mazrah City. There is no way to complete this mission if you do not have this key. So at any point that you run across it, you're going to want to keep it in your stash, or anyone that you know that might have it. Hopefully they'll keep it in their stash, or maybe even be willing to drop it for you. But this is a very, very rare key, so you're not going to want to destroy it or get rid of it at any point once you've actually gotten your hands on it. These are the entirety of all the keys that are required for missions. So if you come across any of these along the way, I definitely recommend, again, keeping them in your stash. It's always nice to have them and not need them yet. Most of these keys have multiple ways to acquire them, so it is likely that you will see them. However, not all of them are going to be as common as others. So let's say, for example, you finally get your hands on that Channel 7 Editorial Department Key. You are absolutely not going to want to die or lose this key in any way, because it's going to be quite a while until you run across it again. But that's going to wrap things up for the keys you absolutely must not destroy in DMZ. Thank you guys for all the support in today's video, all the support on the channel, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.